Good morning. It's Tuesday, June 13th. And while I am ready to admit that this country is in turmoil, and I have stated about the major splits in this country and how evil it is in certain parts of the region and what things are going on. Right now I am seeing something that is happening in the Senate and in Congress that makes me realize that there are still a handful of our politicians who are choosing to act like this is a democracy. While the House of Representatives strongly, in its Republican majority, has sided against the indictment of President Trump, former President Trump, by Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice and the FBI and whatever else is involved in that situation. But when you come to the Senate leaders, particularly Mitch McConnell and several of his close associates, are not saying anything about the indictment because they honestly believe that Trump was guilty of those acts associated with the classified documents. So we have a big division in the country, and that's good. It's good to be divided, and it's good to get those things out in the open, and it's good to have controversy. But all of that has to be reconciled with something that is known as compromise. So while McConnell and some of his closest cohorts, and Lisa Murkowski, Department of Justice, and Merrick Garland are doing the right things, and that they have acted correctly. So this is the split. This is the big split. And Chuck Schumer has been smart enough as the Senate Majority Leader to stay out of the fray. He hasn't said anything. But meanwhile, we have people like Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, and Mike Lee, and Senator Lee expressed his opinion on the indictment, stating that the Biden administration's actions can only be compared to the type of oppressive tactics routinely seen in nations like Venezuela, Bolivia, and Nicaragua. And these actions are absolutely alien and unacceptable in America. But I will tell you, the actions in America are acceptable, and they are valuable, and they are correct. A special prosecutor was instituted to avoid all political sidekicks and things like that. So when Lee makes those statements, he's way off base. He's saying it's an affront to our country's glorious 246-year legacy of independence from tyranny. The incumbent president of the United States who leveraged the machinery of justice against a political rival. Do you really believe that? Does anybody really believe that? No. It's a trope that the Republicans are standing by simply because they believe that Trump could possibly win the re-election. And maybe he could, because there are many in this country who don't care what Donald Trump did. They don't care that he violated the Classified Information Act. They don't care that he had those documents and he denied it and claims he declassified everything. They don't care that the man is a liar. None of that bothered. They loved him. They don't care that he showed this document to people without security clearance. None of that matters to their constituency. Donald Trump was the leader that they craved for. Even though the average person didn't do well under Donald Trump's leadership. His tax cut was abysmal. And then you got Ted Cruz, who stated that the indictment is an assault on democracy and it's garbage. It's a political attack from a thoroughly corrupted and weaponized Department of Justice. All of a sudden, the Department of Justice has become weaponized. They didn't say shit about it when Bill Barr was running it under the auspices of Donald Trump. The Department of Justice and the FBI are straight up, they're non-political animals and they did their job. And Garland had been very, very careful. He's taken too much time to get this thing done, but he does not want to have anything that could overturn this indictment. So he's been extremely careful. And then many people like me, we have ants in our pants and we want this thing done and done correctly. And I give credit to all of those Republican leaders in the Senate who are standing up against their colleagues from Congress and recognizing the fact that Donald Trump is not a good guy and he was a poor president. And many of these people who are now sitting in these chambers, they were supporters of Trump. But obviously they recognize the fact that this man is capable of doing what he did and that he actually did it. And this is nonsense that Garland has introduced this indictment because he's a Biden appointee. That has nothing to do. Now, if somebody said Garland is doing this because the Republicans screwed him out of his Supreme Court seat, I could understand that. And you all remember that episode where Merrick Garland had been nominated by President Obama for the Supreme Court. But under Mitch McConnell, they waited 8 months for the presidential election. And when Trump won, Garland's chance of becoming a Supreme Court justice was gone. So what they argued that was the reason that Merrick Garland found evidence of Trump's wrongdoing and pressed forward, I could understand that. But the other nonsense about the weaponizing of the Justice Department is a lot of crap. All they're concentrating on now is the weaponization of the Department of Justice. And that's a lot of crap. Trump is getting what he deserved, and the people who are in positions in our government should accept that and say, let's wait and see what the jury does with this information. Because it doesn't matter what the House of Representatives says. Doesn't matter what Romney says. It doesn't matter what McConnell says. It doesn't matter what McCarthy says. None of that matters. It's the jury that will decide. One senator got it right. He said we have to trust our institutions, and there's not a lot of trust right now. So I leave you with that this morning. Have a great day. Bye.